Sustainable diets explained. Finally, diet. While sustainable and sensible aren't words often used to describe fat loss plans, these are the two S's of fat loss nutrition. As I said earlier, weight loss comes down to calories in versus calories out. You have to be in a deficit to lose fat, no two ways about it. That's not to say it's the only thing that matters, as other factors play important roles, but calorie balance is the key one. Once you get this dialed in, though, you can eat anything you want within reason and still lose fat very quickly. Obviously, the majority of your food choices should be healthy, but if you want some pizza, some ice cream, some chocolate, or even some wine, you'll be able to do that without wrecking your progress, provided you follow the methods outlined in later chapters. We'll take you through every single dieting component to ensure that you lose fat as fast as humanly possible, but do so in a way that keeps you feeling full and satisfied, doesn't ban or exclude any foods or food groups, lets you have treats and things you enjoy on a regular basis, maximizes fat loss and muscle retention, doesn't make you want to binge, gives you energy to train hard, keeps your metabolism on turbo speed, allows you to follow your diet indefinitely with no suffering and no cravings. Essentially, it's a diet that doesn't feel like a diet, but the results you get are amazing. Before we dive in, let me assure you once more that everything in here is backed by science. Through my time in the industry, I've dedicated myself to learning about female fat loss nutrition and sorting out the fact from fad, and it's a pleasure to share it with you here. Flexible dieting for maximum fat loss. Before you close this ebook down and think I'm about to throw another fad plan or restrictive diet on you, give me a few minutes to show you a way you can eat that not only helps you lose fat fast, but does so in a way where you don't need to ban any of your favorite foods. As you might have guessed from earlier, we want a sustainable, healthy, tasty approach to dieting, and one that doesn't lead to extreme hunger or binge eating. Despite what you've been told about cutting carbs, banning gluten, dairy products, and sugar, or even adopting a raw food approach, there is a way to get the body of your dreams with virtually no sacrifice. The way we'll do this is by following a scientific, evidence-based method of eating. Calories, the queen of weight loss. We ran through calories earlier, but let's go even more in depth. Calories are the main factor in whether you lose or gain weight and fat. If you eat fewer than you burn, you lose weight. And if you eat more than you burn, you'll gain weight. Therefore, before considering anything else, you need to work out how many calories you should be consuming. This isn't nearly as difficult as you might have been led to believe, however. All you need to do is take your body weight in pounds and multiply it between 10 and 12. This is known as your activity factor. Highly active women should pick the number 12. If you train 5 or 6 times a week, then this is you. You'll also be a 12 if you train 3 to 4 times but have a job where you're on your feet all day, or you're just busy and rushing around in general with little time to sit down. If you train 4 to 5 times a week, or you train 2 to 3 times and have an active lifestyle, you'll be an 11. For those of you who only train a couple times every week, you'll be a 10. Once you've worked out your activity factor, you then multiply your body weight in pounds by it. Got that? We'll run through some examples in a little while when we've gone through a bit more information. The power of protein. After calories, protein is the next critical component to suss out. The reason why protein matters so much is because it's essential for building and maintaining muscle. Again, while building muscle and getting bigger won't necessarily be your aim, having a little more lean mass is such a huge help for speeding up your fat loss, and also ensures you don't look skinny and drawn out when you diet down and lose body fat. Protein's second benefit is its thermogenic effect. Protein digests fairly slowly, which means that it keeps you feeling fuller for longer, and also burns extra calories during the digestion process. Ideally, your daily protein intake should be around 1 gram per pound. However, if you're not used to eating a higher protein intake, then you may wish to start a little lower at around 0.7 grams per pound. The typical Western diet is low in protein, and so jumping straight to 1 gram per pound could be a tall order, so aim for 0.7 grams per pound. But feel free to go up to the magical 1 gram per pound mark if you're able to. There's a big myth circulating that says protein will make women big and bulky, but working out where this misinformation came from is as confusing as the myth itself. Protein on its own won't make you bulk up, and even when combined with lifting weights, as we discussed earlier, there's no need to worry about getting huge, purely for the fact that to get bodybuilder big, you need to be training specifically to look like that, as well as eating a very high calorie intake and potentially taking performance-enhancing drugs too. Basically, don't worry. You might have also heard that too much protein is bad for your liver, your kidneys, or just your general health. Again, there's very little fact in this. All the studies that have shown this to be the case have been performed in people who already had issues with their organs, and actually, a slightly higher protein intake can be beneficial for bone growth, preventing osteoporosis and aiding general health, as well as muscle repair, fat burning, and blunting your hunger. Carbs and fats aren't the enemy. Carbs and fats have got a bad rap recently. If the media and magazines haven't been demonizing one, it's been the other. Thing is, you need both carbs and fats to diet effectively, lose fat quickly, and protect your energy levels and your health. Despite the negative name, fats have an important role, as they aid your body with producing hormones, so you need enough fat to support this. Carbs are your body's main source of energy, and while you don't want to go overboard with your carbohydrate intake, there's no need to go super low either. Doing so can actually massively increase cravings and have you feeling tired, lethargic, and irritable, so keep those carbs in. To work out how much fat and carbohydrate you need, we've actually got to do some math. Don't worry, it's pretty easy. First, you need to work out your calories. Let's say you're moderately active and weigh 135 pounds. 135 times 11 equals 1,485. Protein is at 0.7 grams per pound, so 135 times 0.7 equals 94.5 grams. We'll round this to 95. There are 4 calories per gram of protein, and 95 times 4 equals 380. This means 380 of your calories per day are going to protein. If we take that 380 away from 1,485, you get 1,105. This is the number of calories you should be getting per day from carbs and fats. How you divide this up is entirely your call, but with the method I'll outline for you in a moment, you'll see that you don't necessarily need to decide exactly how much to have of each, provided you hit roughly the right calorie amounts. First up, though, I want to show you a couple more examples. How to actually count. So far, I've just thrown some numbers at you, which I know makes everything super confusing, but here's where the magic happens. Plenty of women think that counting calories takes hours every day, or is a massive constraint on their time, but it absolutely isn't. In fact, it can take as little as 2 minutes per day using an app on your phone. One of the most popular apps is MyFitnessPal, so it would make sense for you to use that, though if you've experimented with others and prefer those, that's fine too. Now, whenever you eat something, you need to put it into MyFitnessPal. This might sound like it takes an age, but it doesn't. Let's say your breakfast was 2 poached eggs on a slice of whole grain toast, with 1/2 an avocado and a medium non-fat latte. You just search for these in the app, input the amounts of the foods you had, and you'd see a running total of your day's calories and macronutrients so far. Clearly, by the end of the day, your goal is to hit your protein intake and your calorie intake as you worked out above. I'd suggest for the first few weeks, you plan your day's eating the night before if possible. just so you don't get to the evening and either see that you have loads of food to eat or that you've already gone over and are still hungry. How close is close enough? A common question is, how close do you need to be? After all, 96 grams of protein or 1,511 calories can seem pretty specific. You need to be accurate, but there's no need to be perfect. Ideally, you'll hit at least 0.7 grams of protein per pound, if not 1 gram per pound, and get within 5% of your desired calorie intake. That means if you're shooting for, say, 1,420, then anywhere from around 1,350 and 1,490 is acceptable. That should make it a lot easier. What about weighing? With the method outlined here, you are going to need to look at portion sizes and maybe even weigh some stuff out. Bodybuilders and athletes will weigh everything they eat so they can track it accurately. But if you're just looking to lose fat fast, then there's no need for you to do that. Weighing more calorie-dense items such as nuts, peanut butter, pasta, rice, dried fruit, and so on is preferable, as estimating amounts of these can mean you're grossly overconsuming calories. For packaged foods that already come in servings, like bagels, sliced bread, microwave meals, and the like, you can just add these into MyFitnessPal as servings. When it comes to lower-calorie foods like lean meats, fruits, and vegetables, the best thing to do is roughly guesstimate your serving size, and then put it into the app as that serving. Is it possible to gain fat by overeating chicken and broccoli? Yes, but the chances of that happening are about the same as me flying solo across the Atlantic on a kite. Hopefully you get the idea with this. In theory, the more accurate you are with tracking, weighing, and measuring, the better. But it shouldn't rule your life, and provided you're sensible with it, you'll be absolutely fine. This might be a small sacrifice, but remember, the beauty of dieting like this means that no food is ever off limits. If you want a glass of wine, pour yourself one, then input it into MyFitnessPal. Out for dinner with friends? No dramas. Look up the restaurant on the app, or find the nutrition information online, put it in, and you're all set. On that note, if you do ever go out for food, say to a local independent place that doesn't provide nutritional information, don't sweat it. Just estimate what you had or pick something similar from MyFitnessPal and you'll be fine. Sample foods. No food is ever off limits or considered banned. And if you wanted to just get your protein from protein shakes and the rest of your calories from Twinkies, you could. But I don't suggest you do that. For one, you'll probably feel pretty lousy. And secondly, having an adequate intake of fiber and nutrients mean you'll perform better, feel fuller, and ultimately get better results. To help you along, here's a table of my preferred foods. Aim to get the majority of your diet, say 80% from the foods listed, and the rest from other foods, including junk foods if desired. Accelerate your progress using nutrient timing. Have you ever wondered how when you eat affects your physique and your fat loss? Well, let me tell you, a lot of myths are often thrown around regarding nutrient timing, with perhaps the most common one being that you shouldn't eat carbs after 6 p.m. The science shows us that there's no proof to this whatsoever, but there is some interesting research regarding nutrient timing that you should take into account if you want the best results. Perhaps the most important of these regards eating around your workouts. Before you train, your body is in need of energy in order for you to perform at your best. Pre-workout nutrition also sets the recovery progress in motion, so it's pretty important. As carbs are your body's main source of energy, it makes sense to eat a higher percentage of them here. The other key component is protein. Due to the fact that you'll be working your muscles hard when you train, you don't want them to break down and not build back up again, so make sure you get your protein in here. As far as after training, similar rules apply. The protein is needed again for muscle reparation, but this time carbs are pretty crucial for helping shuttle the protein to the muscle cells. After training, your insulin sensitivity is higher. This means that your body is primed to use carbs for recovery and for fuel, rather than storing them as body fat. It would be a very smart idea to eat around 20% of your daily protein requirement, around 60 to 90 minutes before training, and the same again within an hour of finishing. As for carbs, This depends on how you're splitting up your calories from carbs and fats, but having a minimum of 20 grams and a maximum of 40 grams each side of training, along with your protein, would be a very good idea. The only other thing I'd urge you to do is avoid having too many carbs early in the morning unless you train. Carbs are a useful fuel for intense exercise, but seeing as most of us train later in the day and the mornings are usually pretty sedate, you're best off saving your carbs for later on. Some research has also shown that a breakfast that's higher in fat and protein and lower in carbs may also enhance the fat-burning process. So save the cereal for later and get your egg game on, or mix some low-sugar yogurt with protein powder and mixed nuts first thing in the morning. Dealing with inevitable plateaus. Even with a plan as effective as this, plateaus are bound to happen from time to time. It's not that you're doing anything wrong, it's just the way it goes. If you remember, we talked about how your metabolism adapts to extreme dieting earlier on. This is the same concept. Obviously, the adaptation happens much slower when you're eating properly and training right, but it will still occur at some stage. The important thing when it does happen is not to panic. You have two choices. 1, eat less. 2, move more. Now, neither of these tweaks have to be drastic, and actually, very small, subtle changes can yield big results. So here's what you need to do when you hit a plateau. Oh, but firstly, remember that just because your weight isn't going down doesn't mean you're not making progress. Once a week, check your weight, your waist, hip, and thigh measurements, and take a photo of yourself in the mirror. If any of these, the weight measurements or photo, have improved, then you've not plateaued. You're still progressing, so don't change anything. Weight is particularly temperamental, so don't base all your achievements on that alone. If nothing seems different, then you probably have hit a slight roadblock, so you may need to try a few of these tactics. 1. Reduce calories by 50 per day. This drop is small, but it's enough to force your body to keep burning fat. Just drop your target by 50, then reassess next week. 2. Add an extra HIIT workout. You'll learn about those in just a minute. There you have it. Dieting can be simple, easy, and actually pretty tasty. Just do what we've outlined here by working out your calories and your protein, getting to grips with MyFitnessPal, weighing and measuring food when necessary, sorting out your nutrient timing, and finally, keeping an eye on your progress. If it sounds straightforward, then good, because that's exactly what it is. The real truth about weight loss. Despite the science being there to show us what really works,